let's learn a little thing in photography that is called high dynamic range, HDR. So pretty much what HDR photography in your smartphone does is the same thing that is done professionally in, let's say, Photoshop. Let me explain for your mobile device, since most of us have an iPhone or an Android device that has HDR capability for their photography. Now, what your iPhone does or what your Samsung or Pixel does, it pretty much just takes 3 different photos at 3 different exposures to give you a good dynamic range, something similar to what your eye sees. Now, what Photoshop does, it's pretty much the same thing. When you take your photos from your camera, you take them at various different points of exposure, and then you compile them inside of Photoshop, and Photoshop merges the photo into a photo that has high dynamic range to match something that you'd see in your eye. Now, one thing to know about HDR is that you do not really want to take photos of things that are moving quick. If you want to do them HDR. HDR is more for like something like landscape photography. You don't want a lot of movement because it's gonna look really weird in your HDR photo, as well as humans. They kind of tend to look a little weird in HDR photos, but it's all for you. You do what you do. It's your own photography. Just giving you guys little tips of what kind of looks good in HDR. It's things that are still and don't have a lot of moving things in the background or foreground. That will mess up your photo and make it a little blurry or a little motion blur that you do not necessarily want in your photography. Because again, you merge 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20 photos into one to get that exposure of high dynamic range. So again, just to recap, you pretty much take, in my example over here that I'm going to show you, 3 different exposures, a little bit of underexposed, the right exposure, and overexposed. And you merge those 3 photos into one photo that looks good and it has a high dynamic range. Because not every camera can capture that dynamic range with just the sensor itself. That's why if you merge them, it has a better chance of having that more realistic photo. But again, it depends on your sensor and how the dynamic range of your camera is. So if you want to play around with the high dynamic range, go ahead, do it. Play around, merge all the photos you want, and make it as nice as possible. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys learned something today. I hope you guys like HDR photos. I kind of like HDR photos, they're nice. Alright, see you guys. Bye.